Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's begin today's daily quiz with question number 1 on your screen. Which amongst the following correctly describes an invasive species? Number 1. It is an introduced organism that becomes overpopulated and negatively alters its new environment. Number 2. It is an organism that helps define an entire ecosystem. Third, these are species selected for making conservation related decisions, typically because protecting these species indirectly protects many other species. And fourth, none of the above. The correct definition of invasive species is the first one. These are species that become overpopulated and then negatively impact the environment which is surrounding them. The second one is actually keystone species. Keystone species are the ones that define an entire ecosystem, while the third one defines an umbrella species, such as the giant pandas. They are the ones who are typically considered as important for preserving the entire environment around them. The reason why we are discussing this question is because recently a tiny snail has been found in Kerala, which is now considered as a highly invasive species. The scientific name of this snail is Physalia acuta. The problem with this snail is that it is a host to many worms that can cause foodborne diseases in the human beings. These are not local to Kerala, and the scientists believe that these have reached Kerala through aquarium trade. Since they are visually pretty beautiful, they are usually traded in aquariums, and that is how they have made their way into Kerala as well. These snails can be found in the areas of untreated sewage, effluents, construction waste, and thick growth of invasive aquatic weeds. This is the first time that this snail has been reported in Kerala, and it can host worms that cause foodborne diseases and skin itches in human beings. Question number 2. Consider the following statements with regards to OBC reservation in Maharashtra. Number 1. The Maharashtra government set up a 27% quota in local bodies for the OBCs in 1994. Second, the 27% reservation was applicable to all urban and rural bodies across the state. Third, 73rd and 74th Amendment Acts make it compulsory to provide OBC reservation in local bodies of the states. Which of these is or are correct? Third statement is wrong, as you would easily know. The 73rd and 74th Amendment make it a voluntary provision and leave it on the state legislature to decide whether or not OBC reservation is to be given in local bodies, while SC, ST, and women reservation in local bodies is compulsory, OBC reservation is voluntary. Since the third statement is wrong, the correct answer here is A. 1 and 2 are correct. The reason why we are discussing this question is because the Supreme Court has recently asked the State Election Commission of Maharashtra not to conduct election on the seats reserved for the OBC community in the local bodies of Maharashtra. This is because there is a case pending in the Supreme Court against the 27% OBC quota that has been given to the OBCs in the state of Maharashtra. The Supreme Court has said that elections for other bodies where reservation are given other than OBC can carry on, but the seats which are for OBC category only cannot have elections till we hear this matter completely. The Supreme Court is of the view that for the state government to provide OBC reservation in local bodies, they must set up a commission that will give a report about the exact OBC population in the state, and on the basis of empirical data only, the extent of reservation to be given should be decided. The Supreme Court said that the 27% reservation given to OBC seems random and there is no scientific and data evidence that backs this up. That is why the court has stayed the OBC elections in the local bodies in Maharashtra. Question number 3. Consider the following statements with regards to the AFSPA law. Number 1. It was first introduced by Viceroy Lilnitgo in the form of an ordinance in the wake of the Quit India movement of 1942. Second, post-independence, AFSPA was first enacted to deal with the Naga insurgency in the Assam region. Third, Section 4 gives the army powers to search premises and make arrests without warrants to use force even to the extent of causing death, destroy arms, ammunition, dumps, fortifications, shelters, etc., and to stop, search, and seize any vehicle. Which of these given statements is correct? The correct answer is D. The Armed Forces Special Powers Act, that is in the news with respect to Nagaland now, has all these statements related to it only. As you know, in the state of Nagaland, tribal youth in the district of Mon were killed in an army operation in a case of mistaken identity. The Home Minister also made a statement in the parliament apologizing for what happened in the state of Nagaland. This has again given rise to the demand of revoking the AFSPA law from the state of Nagaland, with the Chief Minister also demanding the same. This is not the first time that such an unfortunate operation has taken place. In 1997, the Supreme Court said that although AFSPA gives a lot of power to the armed forces should use minimum force against its own people, even though they have been given much more powers under AFSPA. In November 1997, in a Supreme Court judgment, the court said that AFSPA should only be used under certain circumstances, and the power to cause death is relatable to maintenance of public order in a disturbed area. AFSPA, as we just read, is a British era law which was introduced by the British to control antisocial elements in the society. The law gives a lot of powers to the administration. For example, Section 3 of the law says that the central government or the governor of the state can declare the whole or a part of state or union territory as a disturbed area. Not just this, under this law, the arrested person and the seized properties have to be handed over to the police with the least possible delay. Any official under the Act who is acting in good faith in their official capacity are protected against the action taken by them. As you know, the famous human rights activist Irom Chanu Sharmila of Manipur has also been fighting against this particular law in Manipur for over 16 years now. Next, question number 4. India observes a Maitri Divas with reference to which of the following nations? Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or Nepal? The correct answer here is Bangladesh. This is the day that India officially recognized an independent nation of Bangladesh, just a few days after India began fighting against Pakistan for the liberation of Bangladesh. The reason why we are discussing this is because Prime Minister, on the occasion of the Maitri Divas, announced that we will try and deepen our ties with Bangladesh even further. This year, 2021, marks the 50th anniversary of the formation of Bangladesh with the help of the Indian Armed Forces. As I said, just 3 days after the beginning of the war, the government of India, led by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, recognized Bangladesh as an independent nation, which is today observed as the Maitri Divas between the two nations. Next is a previous year question from 2019. With reference to the management of minor minerals in India, consider the following statements. Number 1. Sand is a minor mineral according to the prevailing law in the country. Second, the state governments have the power to grant mining leases of minor minerals, but the powers regarding the formation of rules related to the grant of minor minerals lie with the central government. Third, the state governments have the power to frame rules to prevent illegal mining of minor minerals. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer is D. All the three given statements are correct with regards to the minor minerals in India. That is, as per the 1957 MMDR Act, that is Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act, there is a list given of major and minor minerals. Sand comes in the list of minor minerals. This act also empowers the state government to make rules for regulation of the grant of mineral concessions in case of minor minerals, but the power to make rules regarding the grant of minor minerals is still with the central government only. The third statement also is absolutely correct. That is, the state government has the power to frame rules with respect to minor minerals for regulating the grant of quarry leases, mining leases, and other mineral concessions. So, all these three given statements are absolutely correct. Time now for the fact of the day, and today we will be discussing about the Campa funds, that is Compensatory Afforestation Fund Management and Planning Authority. The CAMPA law was introduced in 2016 in the form of the CAF Act. In simple terms, if a company wants to set up an industry and wants land for the same, and they request the government to transfer some forest land for that, then the company has to pay for all the deforestation that is taking place. For example, in an area, if there are 1 lakh trees that have to be cut because this land is transferred to a company to build a manufacturing industry. Now, this company, when it gets the land from the government, will have to compensate for these 1 lakh trees, will have to give money which will be used to plant 1 lakh trees in some other area. That money goes to a specific fund called the CAMPA fund. Money from the CAMPA fund can only be used for environment and afforestation related activities. The money that is collected in the CAMPA fund, out of that, 90% money goes to the respective state governments, while 10% money is taken by the central government. The state governments have been arguing for a long time that the money collected under CAMPA is not being transferred to them, and the central government keeps collecting that money. Now, the ministry has said that we have transferred the pending funds to the respective state governments and asked them to utilize this for afforestation purposes. The maximum funds were transferred to Chhattisgarh and Odisha, meaning these are the states from which most of the forest land was given to industries for industrial development. Interestingly, the formation of CAMPA was because of a Supreme Court order in the year 2002. The Supreme Court in 2002, in the T.N. Godhavarman case, had ordered the creation of the CAMPA fund. While the government established the CAMPA fund in the year 2004, the money was not really utilized. In 2013, the CAG report said that the CAMPA funds were being unutilized and the government must pass an act regarding that. And that is when the CAF Act of 2016 was passed, saying that from now onwards, 90% of the funds will go to the state governments and they will be given freedom to utilize them as per their convenience. This is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.